Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining the Anchor Group podcast. You're tuning into episode 13. Today, we have Max from our Anchor Group team joining us. He is a BigCommerce developer, and we're going to talk about what goes into a BigCommerce migration. So if you currently have an e-commerce website on a different platform and you're looking for a new modern platform, BigCommerce might be the right fit for you. So stick around. We'll get into some of the details about the important things you should be considering with a BigCommerce migration. Max works a lot on BigCommerce websites along with other web development projects we have going on here at Anchor Group. Max, thanks for joining. How are you doing today?
Living the dream, Michael. How are you?
Dude, living the dream is right. We record these podcasts on Fridays, so Fridays are always good days. A lot of
Yeah,
times, good things are happening at the company. It's always good when you have a successful week and can end it on a good note on Friday. So
yeah, productive week too, which is always positive. So
living the dream is right. Well, today we are going to talk about BigCommerce migrations, right? So kind of what is included in BigCommerce migration services. Now, that when we talk about BigCommerce migrations, we're assuming that the people we're working with in this scenario already have an e-commerce website and are taking it from one platform onto another. And so, Max, I'm glad you can join us today because of your experience actually building websites on BigCommerce. And that's what we're going to focus on today, is specifically migrating websites from a different platform and bringing them over to BigCommerce.
yeah, yeah, glad to be here. Excited to talk about migration.
That's right. So, Max, so I'm going to start off by really asking you a question. Kind of an open-ended question just about BigCommerce migrations. So your experience here at Anchor Group, what do you think is the most important part of a BigCommerce migration? Say, for example, we've got somebody listening to this right now who is thinking about going with a BigCommerce migration, but they aren't really sure where to start or what they really should be thinking about. So as we get things kicked off, what is the one most important thing they should be thinking about as they consider a BigCommerce migration?
Yeah, for sure. I would probably say it has to revolve around product data. BigCommerce isn't BigCommerce does have some flexibility, but getting your item data when you migrate platforms, typically as you're on a platform for longer, data management can sometimes become more and more chaotic the longer you're on a given platform. So depending on what you're migrating from, chances are there's a little bit of data cleanup to do. And when you do a migration, it's a great opportunity to clean up some of those things. And then as you get into BigCommerce, they kind of start with that clean data
Yeah, I,
on your platform.
Max, I couldn't agree with you more. The way sometimes I use an analogy when talking to prospects and clients about building out e-commerce websites, and that's the analogy of housing, right? A house. Here at Anchor Group, we like to build a house, build e-commerce websites, and eventually hand over the keys to the people who will be living in it, the merchants, the business owners. And I think when I think about migrating platforms, that analogy comes to mind as well, right? Essentially, you're packing up and you're moving houses. And if you've ever moved houses in the past, right, Max, I know you and your wife are in the market right now, maybe looking for a house. But I know when you move, man, sometimes you just got stuff. And it's like, I didn't even know I had this. Where did this even come from?
Yes.
Right?
It-
And similarly, when you're migrating platforms, you just got stuff, man, and that in the form of data. And sometimes you just need to clean it up, right?
Yeah, I actually don't think that could be a more relevant. There could be a more relevant analogy. Yeah, you just have a lot of times. I think you find that when you're typically people coming to BigCommerce are on a existing platform, especially when we're talking migration, right? So they already have all their item data, and as you progress on whatever your current platform is, sometimes you just start throwing certain parts on your items into fields that maybe it wasn't intended for, and you kind of every platform has a way it wants you to do data, and when you come to BigCommerce, getting the data as close to how BigCommerce wants it is pretty important because it'll just alleviate a lot of the pain points down the road as your data grows, as you add SKUs to your storefront, as you add product categories, things like that. So, yeah, I just think that's a great analogy for kind of what we experienced during migration as well.
Yeah, and I was on a call this week with some folks, and somebody used a line, very simple line, but somebody said, your storefront is the window into your data. And that, after the work that we've done together in the world of migration and working on software integrations and stuff like that, I mean, your storefront really is that window into your data. Your storefront in a lot of ways is only going to be as clean and work as well as the clean data you have on the back end, right? You don't want your storefront to be cluttered just like it could be with a house. So yeah, Max, I would say I'm going to agree with you that data, for one of the most important things that somebody should be thinking about as they are considering migrating to BigCommerce or any platform, data is going to be one of the most critical pieces there. Now, when we do talk about BigCommerce migrations or migrating e-commerce platforms, a lot of times we speak with people who just aren't super familiar with what the process as a whole looks like, right? Like, where do you start once you get the idea of wanting to migrate platforms? Like, where do you start? Who do you reach out to? And what does that process look like? And I'm hoping, Max, you can shed some light on the development side of things. But I know from my perspective, I work on the sales and solution design side of things here at Anchor Group and our e-commerce platform kind of division at our company. So what that looks like in my world, if somebody's considering migrating to BigCommerce, is first off having a conversation to make sure the BigCommerce platform would be a good fit. Now, there are agencies like Anchor Group out there who work with different e-commerce platforms. So we have a pretty good idea of what platforms fit for specific types of companies. And that's where an agency can really help you out if you're looking for a BigCommerce or looking for a new e-commerce platform. So once we go through that process, that's when I know, Max, we lean on you and the others on your team to help kind of with a solution design, talk through different requirements and different abilities and that the software is capable of. Can you kind of shed some light on that and provide some color on kind of that side of things?
Yeah, so once Michael or someone on our sales team has identified that BigCommerce is a good platform for you to migrate to, typically someone like me, a BigCommerce developer, will come in and start to kind of solution architect your project. Along with that, we'll also probably pull in a project management resource from one of our teams who will kind of evaluate the timeline, help double check developer estimates, and kind of go through some of the things like that. So we kind of look at three big areas, I would say, when looking at a BigCommerce migration. The first is your storefront. So are you guys going to be going to a existing BigCommerce theme and pull over some of your branding? Do you want a completely new kind of customized theme? Are you going to go headless? Those are kind of like how we gauge what you're going to do on the storefront side of things. The next thing is really the data management. So bringing over customer data if you have it from an existing e-commerce website, bringing over product data from whether that requires integration with ERP or export from your existing e-commerce platform and import into your new. We'll kind of go in, evaluate some of the things there. And then along with that, I would kind of put this in a similar category as we'll look at things like payment processor. What do you want to use for the back end of your site? So that's kind of like the data piece and what's going to work there. And then the third piece that we look at is, oh, now I'm drawing a blank. I had the third piece in my mind just now.
Yeah, Max, I'll jump in here. The third piece that you and I, commonly talk about is like the path to purchase for customers. Right. When we talk about the storefront, when we talk about the data management, that's all fine and great. But ultimately, what's the purpose of an e-commerce store?
Exactly.
To be able to close some sales, right? To be able to push some products to customers. And so the path to purchase is really that third step that we look at. And that is kind of interwoven into those previous two steps. But we want to make sure that ultimately, if your storefront is the window into your data, We want to make sure the path to purchase is as simple and transparent as possible so that when customers land on your page or potential customers land on your page, we want to make sure that they can order the products, find the products they're looking for, order them, and then we want to make sure there are levers in place that you as a merchant can pull to make sure that you can retarget those customers moving forward, to make sure that you're continuing to essentially offer products to fit their needs. And so I know we talk about that, Max, between you and I.
Yeah, exactly. And with that, what I was going to say is just customization. And this is where we identify the customizations that your business needs. And so as we look through kind of that three-step process, as we get to that third step, we evaluate, how does your store currently function? If you have a store that already exists, what are the customizations you've already done on the platform that you're on? And then is there something that serves that customization already built in BigCommerce, or do we have to go in and build you whether it's just a custom feature on your storefront, maybe you need integration on the backend to support some of that. That's where on the development side especially, that's where we dive in and we come up with like a full solution so that you can get the smoothest transition and keep in those necessary, or maintain those necessary business processes that you have within that path to purchase. So what we see a lot on the BigCommerce side is B2B edition, right? If you're a B2B business, we'll typically suggest you go with B2B edition for BigCommerce, adds the additional B2B functionality that you need. And then, we have customers that have more specific use cases beyond that, where we're building some custom front-end features, maybe some custom transaction features, or in the checkout flow, maybe you need special notes or notes on your orders, things like that. So that's where we're really identifying that piece.
Yeah. And one example of a customization that, that we've built that has been kind of part of that section, how do we improve customer experience on all levels, through the data, through the storefront, through the customizations, is if you go with a BigCommerce B2B edition buyer portal, right? That's essentially, as Max, just said, as you mentioned, Max, like you get so many features there that are for B2B edition specifically. Well, we've had a use case come up where essentially a merchant is like, hey, I want to have a company account as part of my e-commerce store. So when that company, somebody from that company logs on, I want them to be able to see a specific catalog, right, of products for their company with unique pricing and all that stuff, right? Unique lead times, warehouses, all that good stuff. Well, the issue that we have been seeing them run into is sometimes somebody from that company, a brand new user from that company would sign on, but when they signed up for an account, their account would not be automatically linked to their specific company account that it should be linked to. So next thing you know, we'd have somebody off in the Wild West making their own orders. They couldn't see the special pricing. They couldn't see the catalog. So one of the customizations that we have built and can build for different merchants is a customization that when somebody essentially signs up for a new account, if they have a unique or maybe similar email address to everybody else in their company, right, then we can automatically put them into an approval flow so that they're getting lumped into the company instead of being off, on their own in the customer portal, right, trying to build and manage orders. And I think I wanted to point that out because that shows how going through a migration, you can upgrade from most likely the platform that merchants on right now. You can upgrade, get some of that customization, get a feature that's actually helpful. And that's a way of, we're working on the front end, what the customers are seeing. We're helping manage the data in the back end. It's a customization and it's improving the overall customer experience.
That's exactly right.
So with that, that's a great way to outline kind of the 3 or 4 main ways that the 3 or 4 main things that happen during a BigCommerce migration. Max, can you give any more detail to kind of what's included in some of those from your perspective? Like if you are a BigCommerce developer, what BigCommerce developer services are you going to be doing during a BigCommerce migration? Maybe some of like the more nitty-gritty details of what a BigCommerce developer does during that process.
Yeah, so we spend a lot of time on the customization piece as well as the theme development. So we're helping first and foremost with your storefront. What's it going to look like when customers come visit your store? What's the functionality that you need there? Where do we need to extend the theme? Where do we need to add functionality on the storefront? And then in the back end as well, we're working mainly with any integrations that you have. So say you need to integrate to a third-party ERP. We'll do that, or inventory management system, things like that. We'll help with the integration piece there on the back end, and then as well as any other back end customization. So pretty much anywhere that your storefront needs code to be written or theme to be adjusted, think of BigCommerce developer doing that. But it also doesn't stop there. We're also business consultants at the same time, so we're keeping in mind things like item data. We're understanding the platform of BigCommerce. How does BigCommerce want the data to come in? If you do it in a different way, what are you going to experience down the road? Is that going to cause hardship? We're kind of advising on those pieces as well as you migrate platforms.
Let's talk about timeline, because timelines needs to be a focal point, right? If somebody's considering migrating platforms, especially going to BigCommerce, like, let's talk about, Max, how long does it actually take to migrate?
Yeah, so from the start of a project, once you actually get into migration, it kind of depends on all the moving parts. If you have a smaller store that needs to come over, it could be done in 2 to 3 months. If you have a super small storefront, not a lot of SKUs. But then there are bigger projects too, right? If you're already an enterprise level e-commerce shop that has thousands and thousands of SKUs, maybe you have 3 integrations that need to run in the back end, then you're looking at a migration that might take 7 to 12 months. Just kind of depending on each individual use case or each individual migration that we see. And we tend and try to be very transparent with you up front when you come and talk to Anchor Group. We'll evaluate that and let you know kind of what we think as far as data migration, theme development, how long are all these pieces of the puzzle going to take.
Yeah, good call out there. And another thing we should probably just touch on is the price. Like, how much does migrating platforms actually cost? And the answer, which might not be the answer everybody's looking for, but the true answer is that it can vary. And it's so dependent on the situation the merchant or the business is currently in. So for example, here at Anchor Group, we work with a lot of companies who have an e-commerce front end or like a buyer portal on the front end that their customers interact with and interface with. And then there's usually an ERP in the background that kind of runs the operational side of their business. Here at Anchor Group, we work a lot with NetSuite. And so then there's an integration that you need some software to essentially connect the two, whether that's endpoint to endpoint within, connections directly between NetSuite to BigCommerce, or it could be leveraging a middleware like an iPaaS solution. And all of those are variables that go into the overall cost of a BigCommerce migration, or what we sometimes call a BigCommerce implementation, right? And so I know it varies, but Max, out of all of those things that goes into it, what do you think is the part that you need to get right? Out of, like, when have you seen the most successful migrations happen? Like, I know earlier we mentioned data, but is there anything else where you're like, you kind of need to get this right in order for it to be a successful migration?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is data still. I'll double down on that. And then really the next piece is evaluating kind of your integration layer if you have it. Making sure that you've selected an integration software that can handle all the use cases you need. And then kind of making sure that you develop that in a way that's future proofed, where if down the road you only need to integrate these 2 things, but maybe you want to add a third software into the mix. Maybe you only have an ERP and an e-commerce store now, but down the road you want to add certain mailing integration or something like that, then making sure that you selected an integration software that can do that can help a lot. So that would kind of be the third part I would look at. Um, yeah, but still, just overall, I'd say making sure that you have your data in a good spot as you migrate is pretty important.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, Max, thank you for spending some time chatting with us and adding your thoughts to this conversation about BigCommerce migrations. I know we've worked with a lot of companies in the past and are looking forward to speaking with many more people about migrating to BigCommerce. Here at Anchor Group, we feel BigCommerce is a really good platform for merchants who do a blend of B2B or B2C business. It can also work really well for B2C or just pure play B2B. BigCommerce has a feature called BigCommerce B2B Edition, which essentially, like we said earlier, just gives you a whole kind of slew of features that are B2B specific that on other platforms, you're going to need to download a lot of apps. You're going to need to integrate with different software in order to get all that functionality in one place. BigCommerce just makes it that much easier for you. It's one app you download onto your BigCommerce store, and it's all right there. You can manage it all from the BigCommerce admin dashboard. So if you are listening to this and you're interested in a BigCommerce migration, I hope you found this helpful. I hope you have a little bit better of a directional arrow, true north, in a sense on your compass as you start to navigate those waters going through the BigCommerce migration process. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us here at Anchor Group. We're always happy to help walk new people through the process of a BigCommerce migration, or just give our opinion or our perspective on various different things in the past, from shipping, from inventory, from complex SKUs, from that integration piece connecting to external software, or how to make it all work together and flow well together. So with that, Max, thanks for joining today's podcast, and I know we'll probably have you on in the near future on another one, but thank you for sharing your expertise with us today.
Yeah, no problem. Always enjoy it, Michael.
Fantastic. Well, everybody, thank you for tuning into this episode of the podcast. Feel free to check out our other episodes of the Anchor Group podcast. Go to our YouTube channel if you aren't there already, or hop on our website to check out what we do, look at our blog. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We'd love to chat.